Okay, folks, so now that we've talked a little bit about Alphanatomy, let's go ahead and let's try to make it, okay? And so at this point, I'm going to do the digital part. So that means that I'm assuming that you've done your sketches, that you've done these sorts of things at a minimum, and you did your sketch sets, your 8 sketch sets. And again, I won't force you to, but I would highly recommend you to go ahead and do the rest of the letters, okay? And so that's what I would expect you to do. And have that ready to go. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and I'm going to take these items and I need to look at them, even though these aren't mine, these are past students of mine, but I need to take a look at them so I can, instead of just jumping back and forth between here and the software, I'm going to just drop them into the software. Now, if you have them on a piece of paper in front of you, you don't need to do this. I just don't have them on a piece of paper in front of me, so that's why I am. So I just dropped them into the software. I just dropped them right into Illustrator, and I'm literally just going to go ahead and I am going to just do this. Okay? And we are working with, based on, this is all about rules, right? And so based on what I see here, what we went forward with, we worked on this because you see how all the ascenders have this like little kind of kicker serif on them. So that's what's going on, and that's what's happening here in this letter. At one point I thought it was this, but they have like kind of a curly Q here happening, and that's not happening anywhere else. So that's the plan. So how do we go ahead and make this? Well, we just we take a look and see what they did. So all right, so let's start here with A. So the first 2 rows have absolutely nothing on them. So we're not worrying about the first 2 rows. Then I go down to the 3rd row, and it looks like I have this section right here. So I'm going to select this, and it's just a square. Okay, it's just a box. I'm going to go ahead and select it with my direct selection tool, and I'm turning on my actual tools and whatnot at the moment, and I'm going to close pretty much everything with the exception of my layers palette, my swatches palette, and my tool palette, right? And I'll zoom in again so we can see really close what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this box, and I'm simply going to go ahead and fill it with black. And I can select each box individually and do this. I can 100% do that if that's what I'd like to do. But I can also go ahead and select these things. And again, this is my rule, right? So as long as I'm following my rule, I'm going to be fine. So I can select these things, and I'm holding down the Shift key to make multiple selections at the same time. And when I have them all highlighted, and if that doesn't work for you, that's okay, then don't do it. That's fine. Just select them individually, but watch. Bam. And there's my A on paper, and there's my A digitally. So now let's do the B. All right. So the B drops down a little bit here, right? And goes all the way up here. So, all right. So I'm going to start out here, and then I'm going to shift click all the way down and color it in. So these bottom boxes are filled up, and then I have 3 over here that are filled up, and then I have these 3. Now I'd like to point something out. There are 8 rows here, right? This is an 8 by 8 square, and so if you need to, in certain letter forms, you may need to do this, to go ahead and just create an extra row. I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'm going to recreate this B, because I think that extra row would be very helpful here. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to take my selection tool, and I'm going to drag what I call a net across these top rows here, right? And I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm going to drag, and then I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag straight up until my smart guides intersect. And you'll feel a little tug in Illustrator when it happens. Now, the reason I did that is so this way, what I can do is I can keep my stuff on the same baseline, right? Because we want to keep our letter forms on the same baseline. And so did you see before when I made the B, it was like, at a lower baseline than the A? I really don't want that if I can prevent it, because it's just going to cause trouble for me down the line. So instead, I just modified it a little bit, and it's totally legal to do that. It's totally cool to do that. No issues whatsoever, right? And we're going to do that with some of our A senders or some of our D senders, and that's fine. That's totally okay. But we want to make sure we have the same the same baseline, so then that way when we move forward, we don't run into like funky issues or anything like that. All right, so let's do the C. So as you can see, compared to some other projects, the computer work might be actually quite simple. So since I'm done with that, I'm going to select that and delete it. And I'm going to come over here to this. Now, this is one of those situations as well where a student might not know quite what to do once they get into, like dealing with not only the A senders, but like the D senders, right? So here's the thing. We can add the extra lines. We can 100% do that if we want. Or again, you just follow your rules, right? And if you follow your rules, you probably won't run into nearly as many problems. Now, as you see, when the student got to this, they moved everything down to the bottom baseline rather than kind of floating it up. So they probably realized, like, oh man, I didn't mean to do that, and they decided they didn't want that. So that's okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to say select. Or actually, yeah, I'll just grab these things right here. Actually, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to leave those there because it doesn't matter, to be honest with you, because we're going to go ahead and clean this all up in the end anyway. So I'm going to continue with my path of selecting, and go from there. And I'm going to fill up everything, and then I'm going to come back to you guys. When we come back, I'll have my alphabets all filled in together, and then I'm going to show you, how we can go ahead and clean them up to make sure that they stay on the same baselines and that everything works out. Okay? So yeah, give this a try. This is a fun project. Again, it's the first time that a lot of you will probably go ahead and create your own font, so enjoy it. Thank you.